Mr. Marshall, welcome to
Hey,
13 Action News.
thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Let's talk about Nevada. You're here for a short visit, firing up the troops. You're the guy who's the head of state campaigns, political engagement. Here's something that puzzles me about Nevada this year, and it takes a lot to puzzle me about Nevada. Large Hispanic population. It's going to be 20% or so of the electorate. We have a significant African-American and Asian populations. You couldn't ask for a better candidate on the other side to energize those cohorts. And we'll talk about what he did recently. Why aren't you doing better in Nevada?
Well, look, it's still early. It's polling here is hard, so I don't believe in polls that you see. Nevada's traditionally a battleground state. It's one that we prepare for a close race. That's why we have a large organization in the state, expanding the electorate, reaching out to the neighborhoods that you just mentioned, in the Latino neighborhoods, African-American neighborhoods. So I feel confident in our ground game here. I feel confident we're going to win, and I think we're doing really well here.
Of course you're going to say that. That's your job to say that. But listen, I follow this stuff at a granular level. You know, Hillary Clinton's campaign has been here for more than a year, almost a year and a half, almost, and it has very, very good people. I'm not just saying that. There, Donald Trump essentially doesn't have an organization. He's got a few people on the ground. The RNC has sent a few people because of what he has said, especially on immigration. And I'll get your take on what happened this week in a moment. You should be well ahead in this state. We shouldn't even have to see you here.
It's a battleground state. If you look at 2008, 2004, 2008, 2012, Nevada's always been a battleground state. That's how Nevada works. And so, of course, we're going to put an organization here. Of course, the initial polls are going to look like the election is going to be close. That's why we just got to go out and execute. And no matter what the polls say, we are building an organization for a close race to be able to turn out folks, expand the electorate, and then turn out folks. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, we got to make sure that we're here. We can't take anything for granted.
How are you doing that? I mean, that's part of your job is to expand the electorate, right? And to reach out to groups that don't always vote and the kinds of numbers they should. What are you doing here specifically?
Voter registration. So we're out. A few things we're doing. We're out in the community. My mantra in terms of organizing is you got to reach people where they are. So we're in the Latino small businesses, African-American barbershops, and beauty salons, in the faith community, really working with folks, particularly in the business side, to help reach people where they are. So when they come to the businesses, they see a voter registration box, we can get a chance to register voters on site. But then also, how do we draw people to us? How do we make sure that we have potlucks at the office so that way people know that the campaign's here, we're part of the community. We've hired folks who are local from Nevada who know these communities, and that's just been really helpful. And we start to see our voter registration numbers continue to tick up in terms of the work that we're doing, and I think it's going to put us in a good spot.
Democrats have a very large statewide voter registration. It's even larger here in Clark County. It's like 123,000. So that part of it's working. But here's the difference, in my opinion, between 2008 and 2012 and what's going on now. 2008 and 2012, Barack Obama, at least in 2008, let's take that. It's probably better because it was open. He was a new quantity. He wasn't a very known quantity, but he excited a lot of new kinds of voters, right? He did. This year, you're dealing with Hillary Clinton, who is in some ways too well known. All the decades of all the controversies over the Clintons, the email stuff that keeps trickling out, the Clinton Foundation stories, her dishonesty numbers, you and I both know, even though you don't want to talk about polls, they're very, very high. How are you dealing with that from a messaging standpoint? In other words, a lot of people don't trust your candidate.
Well, look, let's look at her Senate race actually in 2000. Campaigns are about going out and earning the support of the American people. When she ran for Senate in 2000, a lot of folks knew who she was, wanted to know what she was going to do, and she, campaigned across the state of New York, was able to be successful. And then when she got in office, people saw the work that she did, how she worked with both parties to get things done, and then she was reelected in 2006 and had an even bigger margin. So she's running for president.
You're talking about totally apples and oranges.
Yeah, no,
you know this better than I. Rick Lazio versus Donald Trump.
But the point
she did a listening tour of New York. I'm from New York, so I'm from Buffalo, so I know all about what she did back in. But that's not comparable to what's going on now.
But here's what's comparable is when you're running for office, you got to go out there and earn the support of the American people, and that's why we have organizations in all these states across the country. We actually have organizations in all 50 states. Yes, we're staffed up more in battleground states, and that's why she's been traveling the states across the country, because you can't just. This is not a. Yes, Donald Trump is temperamentally unfit to be president of the United States. He's unfit. He should not win. We got to go out there and earn folks' support as well. And so when you're running for office, that's what you do. You go out there and you campaign. You let folks know about the economy you want to build that helps everyone, and not just those at the top. That's what she's been doing. I'm very confident the message is resonating. And I think as we move forward, you're going to see us win this election, then she's going to be president.
You talk about that message, and very heavy on policy, very heavy on Donald Trump being unfit, and she has the experience. I'm just wondering how much that message gets refracted by people who have made up their mind she's dishonest, I don't trust her, I've had enough of her, I want something different. Even among voters who traditionally, for instance, some blue-collar voters who might traditionally be a prime category for you. Isn't that a problem? You just can't get through to people?
No,
Maybe with Obama you could, because he was someone new, and all of that.
I hear that, but I actually do think it's breaking through. And you're starting to see a few things. One, after the convention, you saw the party support start to consolidate. People really, from the Democratic Party, is like, we have our candidate, we got to do everything we can to elect Hillary Clinton, and Democrats up and down the ticket. And now you've seen independents and Republicans also come out, because at the end of the day, people want someone who's going to go to Washington, bring people together, and go get some things done. The message of Stronger Together is resonating, and it matters, because people want to see us bring folks together. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have someone who, as you saw this week, is trying to divide the country, split us down the middle, and that's not the type of politics that folks want anymore. That's why there actually is that anger, and we have a candidate who will solve that.
So let's talk about that, what happened this week, because I found it to be fascinating. You know, I've lost count of all the pivots in the Donald Trump campaign, but clearly under the new leadership, they looked at the map and they said, there are a lot of Hispanics in these battleground states we need to win, like Nevada, like Florida, right? And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this presidential visit down to Mexico. We'll make him, and then he'll go and give this speech in Arizona. And I've actually been fascinated, Mr. Marshall, by the coverage of that. Okay, he goes to Mexico, gets the photo op he wanted, then he immediately leaves, and the Mexican president said he lied about not talking about the wall. Then he comes to Arizona and gives a speech that, in many ways, had some of his harshest rhetoric that you've seen yet. But a lot of the analysis, and this is what I'm curious about, is that a lot of immigration hardliners said, you know what, he finally said what we wanted to hear. Maybe not in the rhetoric that we wanted. He's not saying mass deportations anymore, which is a hot button phrase, and that maybe now he's trying to turn it around to consolidate certain groups that maybe thought that before he wouldn't. In other words, there was a softening, but it was in hard language. What do you think of the analysis of that?
I think that what he did this week was double down the rhetoric that he's been using throughout this entire campaign. You know, when he made some staffing changes a couple weeks back, in my vantage point, that was a sign that he's like, you know what, I'm going to let Trump be Trump, as they say. I'm going to double down. I'm going to let folks know about how I want to divide the country, how divisive this campaign is, and stoke into Americans' fears. I think you saw that this week. Yes, he may have tweaked the language somewhat, but at the end of the day, he still wants mass deportations. He wants to build a wall. He, like you said, he wanted to go down for the photo op, and then had this, are you going to pay for it, are you not? It was a disastrous
trip. But he doesn't want mass deportations anymore, according to that speech. If you listen to what he said, he doesn't want. He says anybody who's here illegally will have to leave and then come back. But now he's saying, let's get rid of all the 2 million criminals, which apparently he's going to do in the first hour of his administration. But seriously, and then he says, well, wait till things stabilize. That's what he keeps saying, and then we'll deal with the rest of them. That is a softening, is it not?
Yeah, but it's tweaking around the edges, and at the end of the day, it's not a vision of, again, where you're going to take the country, of how do we actually build immigration reform that works, that helps all Americans, that helps us as an economy, and helps people who have come to America to earn a living wage and be here illegally. So the rhetoric is, again, you may be tweaking around the edges. The rhetoric is the same. It's all about stoking to Americans' fears, dividing our country, and it just shows the kind of president that he will be. He's just doubling down on it.
Okay, final question. Hillary Clinton thinks that Nevada is important. Obviously, I wouldn't have sent such. Thanks for saying it that way. Is she coming back here for visits, for rallies, for interviews in the chair that you're sitting in right there?
We're still finalizing the schedule. We'll definitely check in on the interview, but I would expect her and other surrogates to be back to Nevada, because it's a battleground state. We look forward to winning here, and we look forward to her being president of the United States.
All right. Thanks for your time
today.
For having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right.